issues. Encompass the rights, responsibilities plus scope of nursing practice as defined by state nurse practice acts and as legislated through state and criminal laws. Clients have the right to expect competent nurses. Many facilities have policies plus procedures in place to minimize the risk of error resulting in adverse events, e.g. accident, carelessness, system failures, or malpractice. Malpractice deviates from your standard of practice by your profession. Examples of negligence that result in malpractice: follow standards of care. Remember you took too long to do assessment. Use equipment in a responsible manner. This is usually why nurses get sued. Don't use it if you don't know how. Get help. Communicate, document, assess, plus monitor important point info. Advocate. Follow chain of command. Always review Mass Practice Act to understand your responsibilities as a nurse. Take in consideration your knowledge base. If you haven't done something or don't know how, don't do it alone. Informed consent refers to the client's legal and ethical rights to be informed of, give and refuse permission for any healthcare procedure or TX. Info is provided in terms that patient can understand, lay terms, with available alternatives, risks and benefits, and the option to refuse. Follow employing agency's specific protocol for informed consent, expressed or implied. Factors for consent. Competency. If point is on pain meds, or meds that may affect their decision-making, they are not competent, or some point are deemed legally incompetent. Emergency care. In the event of an emergency, you do not need consent, you can get it after. Child participation. Though children may not be able to actually give the consent, they should be involved. In MA, we do not obtain consent, we make sure point understands and informed about procedure *, acting as advocate. If point is asking a lot of questions about procedure, greater than you are to call a physician to come back up and explain. Try to be in the room when they are giving consent. Mandatory reporting. Legal requirement to report act, event, or situation designated by state or local law as reportable. Nurses are mandatory reporters. Nurses' role in mandatory reporting. In most states, nurses are required to report from things that they have seen, heard, or observed. Abuse or suspected abuse. Certain types of injuries or illnesses. Crimes involving minors. Nurses have a legal obligation to report conduct that is incompotent, unethical, and illegal, through chain of command. Mandatory reporting of nurses who are in violation of the Nurse Practice Act. Each state's Nurse Practice Act includes requirements for reporting nurses who are in violation of the Act. What you can and cannot do as a nurse. Report goes to the Board of Nursing. Example: a nurse who is practicing outside their scope, BP is high, gives another dose of the med without consulting, getting an order we cannot prescribe, or using equipment without knowing how *, report to manager. Mandatory reporting of certain illness injuries. Examples of conditions that must be reported: injuries from a gun or firearm, illnesses caused by poisoning, knife or sharp, pointed instrument, wound, injury, or illness caused by criminal act or violence. Certain infectious diseases, such as tuberculosis, airborne, HIV/AIDS, COVID-19, droplet. Tracking infectious diseases is important. Don't want them passed around to the community *. Good faith immunity. Protection from civil or criminal liabilities when healthcare staff report child abuse, but later on, child abuse is not found. can also include reports of elder mistreatment, particular illnesses or injuries, and crimes involving minors. If you had a sense something is going wrong, you want to report it. If investigated and nothing was going wrong, you can't be charged with malpractice or reporting child abuse for no good reason, or breaking ribs during CPR, etc. Risk management, black circle with down arrow, focuses on limiting a healthcare agency's financial and legal risk associated with the delivery of care, particularly in terms of lawsuits, ideally before incidents occur. Variance is an incident or accident that affects a patient or a visitor in a healthcare facility. Even a slip and fall outside hospital, fill one out in case anything else happens. Strategies for risk management. Facilities usually have a designated risk team that collaborate with interprofessional team to incident report, agency record of an accident or incident. Risk management, black circle with down arrow, focuses on limiting a healthcare agency's financial and legal risk associated with the delivery of care, particularly in terms of lawsuits, ideally before incidents occur. Incident report, agency record of an accident or incident that occurred within the agency. Variance is an incident or accident that affects a patient or a visitor in a healthcare facility. Even a slip and fall outside hospital, fill one out in case anything else happens. Strategies for risk management. Facilities usually have a designated risk team that collaborate with interprofessional team to maintain safe, effective, healthcare environment. Prevent or reduce financial legal risk to the organization. Organizations need investigation and reporting protocol for incidents that have potential for lawsuits. Strategies to minimize risks. Identity areas in which incidents most commonly occur and implement practices to minimize likelihood of incidents in those areas. Examples: review reports, collect data, and see where they commonly occur. Engage with your staff. What areas do they feel open to risks? Skin is big with this. If a patient comes in with a stage 3 ulcer and you don't identify it, then you have to buy it. So facilities often have 2 nurses do a full assessment on a patient following admission in case they miss anything. Minimizing risks with physician's orders. Analyze. Is this something that would usually be prescribed for this procedure? It is your responsibility to seek clarification from the physician for ambiguous or erroneous orders. Once seeking clarification, document it: who, what, when, where, and why. Text pages are saved in facilities if that's what you used. It is not okay to carry out an order just because a doctor said it was. If you feel it isn't right, investigate and go through your chain of command. Categories of orders that nurses must question to protect themselves legally. Any order that a patient questions. Any order if the patient's condition has changed. Should I still give beta blocker if point verses are now 90/80? Question and record verbal orders to avoid miscommunications. Try to have them put order in. Any order that is illegible, unclear, or incomplete. Nurses must carry out orders the way that they are written when they are not questionable, or if you had all your questions answered. Competent nursing care. Provide care that is within legal boundaries of nursing practice, within boundaries of agency policies and procedures. Nurses must be familiar with their job descriptions, which may vary between agencies. Read your job description. Nurses must be responsible for ensuring that their education, experience are adequate for responsibilities specified in job description. Make sure you are able to do the job. Application of the nursing process is essential. All assessments and care must be documented accurately and as close to point of care as possible. Document right away. Nurses need to approach every patient with sincere concern. Nurses should acknowledge when they don't know answer to patient's question and know where to find that answer. Nurses need to implement the care plan and evaluate at the end of their shift the effectiveness of the interventions. In our nursing note, you should be able to evaluate and review and understand what your priority was, what interventions you did, and evaluation. Incident reports. Designed to collect adequate information to prevent future incidents. Report should document facts completely and accurately. Event that prompted report should be noted in patient's chart. Charting should not include any mention that an incident report was filed. If mentioned, this creates what issue for the hospital. Write words arrow discovery. If a lawyer picks it up and sees report was filed, they can now ask to see internal reporting, which helps us fix ourselves. If the patient required treatment as a result of the event, that is noted in chart. Chain of command must be notified.